I think quite a good number of participants have already joined. So maybe without any further delay, we need to start our webinar session. All right. So we are going to start our webinar session today, and our colleague will actually help, any technical glitches. And they will also admit like participants when we are moving through the webinar session. So namaste and a very good afternoon, everyone. I know a few participants have registered from different time zones, especially for them, good morning or good evening. I don't know, like those are the countries that I saw, like they have also, registered for this webinar. My name is Pawan Rai. I am a co-founder of Center for Social Change and currently serving as a president at the center. I'm also chairing the webinar session today. I'm delighted to welcome today's webinar panel speakers, moderator, and participants to another episode of Center for Social Change webinar series. We are really excited to see many people joining us in a time of discomfort and anxiety. Hopefully, I believe you all are keeping yourself safe and healthy wherever you are at this moment. As a continuity to Nonviolent Civil Resistance webinar series, today we are hosting a webinar on power of nonviolent actions in defending the rights of farmers and laborers in South Asia. I also would like to acknowledge our audience from our Facebook live stream, which is going on right now. I'm also taking permission from all of you that this webinar session will be recorded. It is live and it will be used later on, and you'll see the recording version of the webinar in our website too. So before starting the main session, I would like to take a moment to introduce our organization. Center for Social Change is a social think tank organization established in the year 2015. Our primary focus is to build a policy environment that acknowledges evidence-based working strategies. We work on the socio-political dynamics of Nepalese society through research, education, advocacy, and civic engagement. Evidence-based advocacy through research is at the core of Center for Social Change work. Our work is mainly focused on issues around conflict transformation and peace building, democracy and governance strengthening, migration, and and informal sector workers, civic space and civil society development, and largely on public policy engagement. We have published several research reports, infographics, policy briefs that can be found by visiting our website and other social media platforms. I will take this opportunity as an to request all the participants actually to like and follow and share our social media pages so that you can get like all those publications on time and regularly. Coming back to the topic of the webinar today, it is obvious that the farmers and laborers movement in South Asia underwent a sea change by character, objectives, methodology, and nature in the last few decades. We witnessed a lot of past well-known movements, from Gandhi's non-violent movement during the struggle for independence to a recent farmer movements in India. We have also witnessed a garment workers movement in Bangladesh, where worker rights organizations and trade unions are constantly raising and protesting for a fair price or raise in the minimum wages. Nepal also witnessed so many civil resistance campaigns and non-violent movements in the last few decades. Civil resistance campaign to oust the monarch in 2006 was one among them. Today, the pandemic has shown that farmers and laborers, whether informal workers or migrant workers residing in Nepal or India or Bangladesh or any other South Asian countries, are at high risk. Much attention is not paid to them both by the government and by the right-based organization. Hence, to deal with their struggle, plight, and non-violent actions, this webinar will guide us further to reinforce the concept of non-violence in the grassroots context. We all know that non-violent movements can lead to meaningful systematic change. Many studies proposes that non-violent civil resistance is far more successful in creating broad-based change than violent campaigns. Therefore, without further delay, I would like to pass this floor to the moderator of today's webinar. Our moderator for today's session, versatile and dynamic, Ms. Shraddha Kharka, is here today. She is working as a researcher in the field of governance, migration, and informal sector workers at Center for Social Change. I hand over to Ms. Shraddha Kharka, who will take webinar further and And sorry for taking a long time. Thank you so much. Shraddha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pawan sir, for that humble introduction. Namaste, everyone. My name is Shraddha Kharka. I am a researcher and your moderator for today. Once again, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar session, which is the second of our webinar series called Nonviolent Civil Resistance. Our panel speakers, participants, and everybody watching us live on Facebook, good afternoon from Kathmandu and a warm welcome. Aligning to the core mission of CSC that Pawan sir has already talked about, I'd only like to add a little to that. Today's webinar actually aims to bring forward an extremely important topic that is often overlooked when we talk about right-based movements. How can non-violent movements led by relatively smaller groups of farmers and workers survive in the face of injustice and repressive autonomy? Do these campaigns help to build a more democratic society? Farmers and informal workers and migrant workers were already vulnerable to low wage, difficult working conditions, discrimination, poverty, and lack of social protection. And now their challenges are further worsened by the ongoing effects of the pandemic. And the current monsoon has also been very harsh on them. Also found by our very recent research conducted by CSC, they are reported to be among the most affected groups today, and their challenges must come forward. To bring in powerful insights and realities on this matter in the South Asian context, we have the pleasure of learning it from experts who are our panel speakers for today. Allow me to give their brief introduction. First up, we have Mr. Ramesh Sharma. He serves as the National Coordinator of Ekta Parishad, which is a mass movement for land rights of marginalized population in India. With an active membership of 250,000 and more landless marginalized people, it is regarded as one of the biggest people's movement in India with an iconic status globally. Currently, he is the International Coordination Committee member and leader of Global Walk for Justice and Peace. As a campaigner, he has led many large-scale mass struggles. In the last 20 years, Mr. Sharma has played an instrumental role in strengthening and expanding Ekta Parishad as one of the most significant people's struggles for land rights, and he's an active member of various national and global alliances on this subject. Welcome, Mr. Sharma. It's our pleasure to have you. Next, we have Ms. Kalpana Karki. She has been facilitating land and agrarian rights campaign at Community Self-Reliance Center, CSRC, as a campaign manager since 2005. She has been endlessly working on raising the issues of women, land, and agrarian rights by conducting various campaigns in grassroots and a national level as well. In Nepal, Ms. Karki has been facilitating joint land ownership campaign. CSRC is an active member of International Land Coalition, that is ILC Forum Asia, for which Ms. Karki serves as the gender focal person. So glad to have you with us, Ms. Karki. And last but not the least, our panelist, Ms. Jasia Khatun. She is the director of Warbi Development Foundation. Warbi stands for Welfare Association for the Rights of Bangladeshi Immigrants. Completing her MSS from University of Dhaka and Masters in Development Studies from BRAC University, she is an active advocate for migrants, human rights at national, regional, and international levels since 2008. Ms. Khatun has been working closely with migrant workers, returning migrants, and their family members to provide them necessary support to facilitate a smooth and safe migration and a reintegration process. Ms. Khatun has participated in different regional and international conferences and as a trainer and participant and a speaker as well. It's a pleasure to have you, Ms. Khatun. Before we dive into the main topic, I would like to briefly lay out today's webinar structure. We have scheduled it to be 90 minutes long. After this introduction part, I will give our panelists a question that will cover an overview of today's theme. Each speaker will be allocated 15 minutes to present a brief overview on the topic. I will be keeping time and I will give you a reminder if need be. 30 minutes after that is set for question and answer. Our participants who are watching us live can send their questions to specific speakers and drop it in the chat box. According to the time limit, we will definitely try to cover your questions. And the rest will be for closing today's webinar session. I do have a few important announcements that our participants can make the most of. I will be sharing them towards the end of today's session, so stay with us. Without further ado, let's begin with today's discussion. My question goes out to all three panel speakers. I would like to know, how have nonviolent movements protecting farmers and labor rights evolved and sort of sustained in your country's context? We are talking about organized labor, so the significance of it in your country's context. Do farmers and laborers tend to become self-organized, or do they organize through unions, political parties, or some other external forces? There have to be factors that influence their willingness to unite and to organize. So what can these factors be? Also, when organizing or when being a part of nonviolent struggle, do these movements tend to be successful when they're organized within their own capacities, or do they need to form a coalition with like-minded groups like media, civil society organizations, or political parties to garner more success to their cause? And finally, what aspects of nonviolent protests work? Do they positively or negatively affect the lives and livelihoods of farmers and laborers in your country's context? And is there an increased preference for nonviolent actions among them? So these are the questions that I would like our panelists to address. We can start with Mr. Sharma, and at the time being, Ms. Khatun and Ms. Kalpana can work on their presentation. Mr. Sharma, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes to answer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shraddha, and thanks to organizer for giving me this opportunity. It's always been very pleasure to come with Pawan and the team. So thanks, Pawan, for invitation to Ekta Parishad and to me specifically. So let me briefly try to answer the four key questions, Shraddha, you have raised here. The first is, definitely I'll speak with a very specific context of my country, India. When we talked about the defending farmers and labor rights, in Indian context, we have to understand that we are encompassing the demographic majority for the long due rights and justice. When I say the demographic majority, I'm talking about the 80% workforce, which constitute unorganized labor, landless and homeless poor, and small and marginal farmers. So in our case, in Indian context, whenever we talked about the farmers and labor rights, we are roughly talking about the 80% of the workforce, which is a real huge population in Indian continent. So what are the other very, very key factors in Indian context, which actually matters, especially when we talk about the defending farmers and labor rights? India is a country which is known for a very large, very long, successful movements for protection of rights of laborers and the small and marginal farmers. I would say, being a part of a nonviolent movement over last almost, Ekta Parishad exists since last 4 decades. So we can say the success rate of nonviolent movement in India is much higher as compared to the violent movement. And according to our own research, 80%, roughly 80% nonviolent movement, they are successful in achieving some of their larger goals or some of their larger directions. But if you see the success rate of the violent movement in any context, hardly 20% they have achieved whatever they thought of. I say it's not just achieved, it's a process also. I would count there are very few and very significant movement in Indian context which have actually set the milestone for protecting the farmers and labor rights. Bhutan movement of 1950s and 60s. Bhudan movement was led by great Acharya Vinoba Bhave, who was one of the key disciples of Gandhi, who walked the country for almost 14 years, and he received roughly around 4.2 million of acres of land for the redistribution among the landless, homeless, poor, and the laborers. So this was one of the very, very successful campaigns soon after the independence. If you see the history in the 80s, India is known for a very historical environmental movement like Chipko movement, which was actually inspired by Gandhi and led by Sundarlal Bahuguna, who actually protect the entire Himalayan ecosystem, and they challenged the big dam projects that time in Uttarakhand and in Himachal Pradesh. So the 70s and 80s known for a various historical movement. In the 90s, there was another set of movement emerged like Ekta Parishad and Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan, MKSS. And these were the campaign which actually got a tremendous amount of success to change the legislation, to change the policy, to change the attitude of the state, and to change the whole delivery system. I can count there are several set of new legislation which was came soon after these very, very significant movement of Ekta Parishad and MKSS. Coming back to the second very key questions which you have actually asked to all of us, how these farmers and labor movement are influential in order to create some ground impact. The first and foremost important for me, what I learned from and what we have learned from these nonviolent movement, they are strongly grounded on quest for justice and peace, which actually helps them to increase the social connectivity. If you are grounded enough on the core issues of justice and peace, this actually helps us. This actually help you to enhance the social connectivity on the ground. The one very important and core value is a constitution, and which is true, I know, in your context as well as in the context of India or in Bangladesh or in other country. The one very successful movement, which was known as a labor movement, land and labor movement, in history known as a Bodh Gaya movement, of which started in the late 70s in 1978, and which continued over the years, and which got tremendous amount of success to gain the land, to protect the workers' right, to protect the rights of agricultural workers. There is also a movement called Bandhua Mazdoor Mukti Morcha, which started in 1990s. And this was the legislation which was strongly grounded on two very specific legislation which was made by the parliament. The one is the Bonded Labor Release and Rehabilitation Act. And the success of the Bandhua Mazdoor Mukti Morcha, they got success to release more than 20,000 bonded laborers over last 20, 30 years. This was a historical movement in its time. And later, they also get success to start a new movement for protection of the rights of the child laborers. And this was like abolition of the child laborers. So this was also a very successful campaign later, which was actually led by the Kailash Satyarthi ji and who received the Nobel Prize. So this is the one background, how influential they are on the ground. The second part of this, this question, the whole appearance of this movement as a democratic movement actually helps them to build their political credibility. So in the whole movement of Bandhua Mazdoor Mukti Morcha or anti-child labor movement was actually strongly grounded on the democratic meaning. And this democratic meaning is actually give them a kind of a lot of leverage to talk to the ordinary people. So this was the movement which was not necessarily joined just by the bonded labor or just by the child labor, but this was supported by the various people who live in the different social strata, like the bank employee union. They have given a big hand to this movement. So this all movement is known for their own democratic value. The third question, which is again very, very interesting question, it's about the broad coalition of farmers and labor movement. I'd say that one thing which we have learned through our own experiences and which actually matters a lot is the connect for the Rainbow Coalition. When I say the Rainbow Coalition, that means I'm necessarily talking about the connect with the social and political organizations. In our own experiences of Ekta Parishad, we are known for one of the massive foot marches in 2007 when 25,000 people walked, in 2012 when 100,000 people walked, in 2018 when again 25,000 people walked. In most of the time, this was not just the campaign of those people who have suffered with the landlessness and who are like agricultural laborers, but this was the movement which was significantly supported by various trade unions. Various big farmers movements also. I can count. I mean, the one very interesting example when we had this campaign in 2007, we got success to negotiate with the Railway Workers Union. Is there any connection between the Railway Workers Union and the landless poor? In reality, a larger answer is no. But yes, there is a relation. So when 25,000 people, they came all the way to Gwalior for taking a train without tickets, just with flags and banners, we decided to talk with the railway union workers so that nobody can go and to harm these people who are coming without tickets. And we got success. Can you imagine 25,000 people, they came successfully without any problem. They landed in Gwalior after the successful campaign from Delhi. They went back to their home. So this kind of a rainbow coalition we need to think all about. The Doctors Association, the Medical Association of India, we had a very interesting negotiation with Medical Association of India in 2012 when they have actually given 25 ambulance to protect the people who are walking for a month. The second very important aspects of coalition is that the very openness to enhance the outreach of the campaign to the elected representatives and the opposition. I'm saying elected representative and opposition both are very, very important. The one of very successful example in Indian context is the Narmada Bachao Andolan. When there was a plan for the displacement of the thousands of people in the Narmada Valley, the NBA, which was known as one of the known very famous non-violent movement, they have actually reached out to the various member of parliaments and opposition also. And I remember during that time, in every session of parliament, there was a question around the Narmada Bachao Andolan movement. They also got success to reach out to the former judges and writers and poets and artists and painters and cinema actors. So when we say the Rainbow Coalition, this also means a lot. This also gives a very different kind of image for the non-violent movement. So I would say in Indian context, these are some very interesting and successful model. The last part, when and how non-violent protests work. And this perhaps may take a very long time to answer because there are several factors. There are several factors. I'm pretty sure that other speakers can add a lot of value on that. But in my opinion, just 2 points, I would like to raise 2 points here. The one very, very important and very fundamental here, what works in the nonviolent protest is a democratic leadership. The representation of the various constituencies is very, very important. I would say that, I mean, if you see that the people who walked, the 100 people who walked from Gwalior to Delhi for a month, who was the leader? If you ask me this question, I would say that 10,000, those people who are who are representative of the community, who actually belongs to the different caste and class, and who are the people who actually belongs to the different geographical locations. So here, the democratic leadership model is very, very important. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that the whosoever is here in this particular webinar, they are very used to, and everybody is using this whole democratic model of leadership. But in my opinion, this is one of the very, very fundamental reason for the success, and it's extremely important. And the second, which is very, very important in the entire leadership model and entire non-violent protest, which actually matters a lot for the success or the failure of the movement, is a deeper and honest engagement in the dialogue process. In Ekta Parishad, we believe in 3 pillars called Sangharsh, Samvad, and Rachna. Sangharsh means struggle, Samvad means dialogue, and Rachna means constructive engagement or constructive work. So the whole of the strategy of Ekta Parishad, it's actually fine-tuned or a kind of a proportional balance or the proportional approach, allowing these three factors moving together. But one thing which actually very, very important, see, in my opinion, the non-violence and democracy, it is two sides of a coin. Hmm? You cannot think about the democracy without the non-violence, and you cannot think about the non-violence without the democracy. And this is very, very important, especially when we approach the big state. Whenever we take the demand of the migrant workers, whenever we take the demand of a small and marginal farmers or the laborers or the unorganized laborers, we have to be very positive, very, very positive in terms of engaging with the state and engaging the state forcefully or politely in the dialogue process. Uh, I'm a part of the various negotiation, the political negotiation over last 20 years. I had been in various these kind of a negotiation process. And before entering into the room, believe me, it was a kind of a high pressure you can feel in your shoulder. And I always believe that achieving 100% might be difficult because see, whenever you enter in the state, the people who are sitting on the other side, he or she is with 100%. I don't want to lose anything. And I just want to make these people full. And on the other side, people like me or people like us, we enter in the room and we always believe that we'll achieve 100%. But 100% plus 100% is a 200%. And being a student of mathematics, and probably you know all of us very well, that the 200% is an illusion. So achieving 100%, that means it's a art of, art and science of negotiation. So that takes some time longer. That came a very honest engagement. That also need a lot of belief on the other side. That needs entire the democratic value inside us. And but this is the one thing which actually turned the entire game, especially when we talk about some larger issue, the structural issue for me and for us, the whole issues of laborers, the issues of farmers, the issues of migrant workers, the issues of fisher folks or nomads is a issue which is deeply connected with the structural violence. And whenever we engage with the state to challenge the structural violence, we have to be democratic, we have to be very patientful, we have to be very visionary, and we have to be very honest. So let me stop here, and I'll be happy to take a few questions later in the question answer session. Thanks to organizers again.
Thank you so much, Ramesha. You actually stayed within our time limit, so I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. The things that you talked about these are really powerful ground examples that only emphasize that nonviolent actions are successful. And you very fondly said that you like mathematics, which I don't, sadly. But if you cannot, there's always room for improvement, or there's always room for harder work to achieve that 100%, I think. So it's an ongoing process as far as I understood. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramesh. Next speaker, we have Ms. Kalpana Karki.
Thank you, Shraddhaji, and namaste to all. I'm also happy to be here with Ramesh Pai. Let me share my screen first. Is this okay, Shraddhaji?
We can see it.
Thank you. Yeah, this is, I'm stopped my video because internet is very slow here. So it might be good. Yeah, this is a very good webinar that we are discussing about the non-violent farmers movement. And I am sharing my experience from the land rights movement from Nepal. The non-violent movements evolve and sustain in our context that is on successful history of farmers' rights struggle that we have a long history from the political parties and the leaders They started very beginning from the different part of the country, but unfortunately it is not success. So local community efforts were failed by government, by landlords, and so on. So issue of land and farmers were always included in the political agenda and documents, but it was never addressed properly. This led to the disappointment and frustration among landless people and the farmers. It was and still is an issue of poverty, exclusion, discrimination, dignity, and life. So this made us realize the need of long-term committed and focused non-violent social movement that works from community level to national policy level to ensure the farmers' rights. In 1993, Community Self-Reliance Center, CSRC, was formed to address the need. For a few years, CSRC created an environment and the awareness about the importance of the people-led movement. This led to the formation of National Land Rights Forum in 2004. Because without the people organization, the non-violent social movement was not success. That is our reflection learnings from the movement. So NLRF structure at all levels, from community to village to district, province to national level. So development of frontline activists, leaders, teams at levels, that is our good part of the non-violent movement. And we also focus on regular camps, gatherings, local to international learning visit, um, engaging the community in livelihood and cooperative activities to address their immediate needs, categorizing the issue, grabbing immediately possible achievements in terms of the farmers' right, participatory formation of short, medium, long-term movement strategies, and sharing those at all levels, our presence and support to farmers and landless people in crisis situation like earthquake, flood, and the landsliding and COVID and so on. In our presence and the small support is highly appreciated by the community. Creation of movement formed by the farmers and landless people themselves. We say the movement fund, self-contribution. This gives the moral power and synergy for sustain the movement. These are some pictures of the movement that we organize in the Prime Minister office ahead. And the successful is our movement. That one is the constitution. During the constitution making process, the movement effectively influenced the constitution making process to ensure the land reform through the formulation of land laws and policies. Policy success, National Land Policies, Land Use Act, and 8th Amendment of the Land Reform Act 1964, ensuring rights. Now more than 50,000 farmers gain their land rights so that they are able to continue their substantial farming. We have a joint land ownership policy too, which have a long struggle, after the long struggle, government announced the joint land ownership policy. Then after that policy, we CSIC and National Land Rights Forum together, we were focused to implement the joint land ownership policy, and now the more than 12,000 couples made the joint land ownership. Recently, a land issue related commission also formed in 2020. This is a very good example that our movement agenda was to the government to form the land commission for the to ensure the rights of the landless and informal settlers of Nepal. So it is going on, and also the involvement of farmers in livelihood and cooperatives need to expand and strengthen for successful of our movement. This is the picture in front of the Constitution building ahead in Kathmandu. We organized a big campaign, like 1,000 women from the 50 different districts in 8 days long campaign in Kathmandu. This is the picture from the gathering, landless and farmers. And significance of movement is one is the unity is power, ensure the ownership of the issue, and change is possible with our continued struggle and organization. Since political parties gave them a false hope for a long time, the farmers and landless people are interested to self-organize. When the self-organized movement gains success, the frontline activists have also been recognized as a capable social and political leaders in the communities. Many of them were picked up by the political parties during the local election as candidates. There are farmers' wings of the political parties too. They are interested to collaborate with the self-organized National Land Rights Forum nowadays. And this picture also the meeting with the Prime Minister at that time when the constitution is going on. This is also the pictures from the movement in Kathmandu. And the willingness to unite and participate in non-violent movements, the short and mid-term achievements is very helpful. Also, the sheer opportunity to all the frontline leaders at all levels, that is our the reflection and learnings from the movement. Also offering companionship and support when the community and activists are facing hardships and challenges. For example, during the natural disasters, issue-based regular engagement and close relationship with the communities and movement leaders, it is very important. Consistent effort to sustain farmer and activist motivation, commitment and engagement through camps, meeting, knowledge development and sharing, research, leadership development opportunities, mobilization in movement activities at every level from community to national. This gives better understanding of the struggle and issue to the activists and helps to strengthen the movement. For the non-violent struggle movement, There is a big role from the civil society groups, media, and political parties as well. The struggle cannot be successful only by the capacities of the farmers. Like National Land Rights Forum is established in the national level nowadays, but the National Land Rights Forum is success to get the support from the Community Self-Reliance Center, also the international community like ILC, even Ekta Parishad also support sometimes from the distance, sometimes Ekta Parishad people come to Nepal and organize a big encampment for the land rights forum. Also, sometimes our land rights forum people go to India, participate the different campaign and learn many things from Ekta Parishad. Also, the media awareness, lobby, and advocacy support both to the farmers as well as government and political parties. Also, the CSO's role there for co-campaigners, solidarity, share the issues, capacity development, resource and knowledge generation, lobby and advocacy. Especially, it is very important to generate the knowledge from the civil society organization like issue-based research and support to the action for the non-violence movement to the people organization. The aspects of non-violence movements are, first is non-violent campaigns are constructive, as Ramesh Bhai shared, not destructive, dignified, respected by all. There is a moral power of the non-violence and issue and evidence-based lobby advocacy, offering what works and what are the constructive solutions to the problem, not only criticizing or standing against the system. We always advocate, we always share our alternate within an issue. So direct participation of people deprived from their rights are the main aspects of nonviolent movements. In our context, these nonviolent movements impacted very positively to secure their rights, to develop leadership skills and capacities, to understand the non-violent struggles take a long time to succeed and remain motivated and committed for the movement in long term. Life and livelihood farmers and landless people is getting better, increased solidarity and support to other issue-based groups within the movement. Also, the people, they feel cared and supported when we reach them in crisis situation. They have gained social dignity, economic power, and means for living with their own. Gender relation and power dynamics at the family and social level is more balanced through joint land ownership initiatives. The CSRC, NLRF, activists and leaders of the movement and movement itself is recognized as a significant contribution by the state, political parties, media, CSOs, and international community. For example, the government formed the Land Commission and our one of the core member of Community Self-Reliance Center, he is appointed the member in Land Commission. Preference for non-violent actions. Their preference has not been diverted to other than non-violent struggle, maybe also because Nepalese people experience and saw violent conflict in recent history and its effect in our society. On the other hand, the success of our non-violent movement is inclusive nature, participatory involvement, and the achievements have also convinced them for the continuous preference to non-violent movement. These are the some focus picture during the movement. Um, these are also picture from the community. Publication also very important to sustain the non-violence social movement, which CSRC is contributing the many through the many publication in our land rights movement. So thank you very much. I'll stop here. Then let me for other queries and questions, if any.
Thank you so much, Kalpana Karki ma'am, for that presentation. It's wonderful to know all the positive things that CSRC has done so far. The questions that we had about coalition building and the kind of support, you answered it very well. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Ms. Jessia Khatu, if she is ready with her presentation, then we can start with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Swetaji. Thank you so much, everyone. Everyone is Assalamu alaikum and Namaste. So I'm sharing my presentation. Mainly, actually, I will focus on the migrant workers' rights. My focus area would be migrant workers' rights. If I will not go thoroughly because there is time constraint. Actually, you know that the Bangladesh is one of the high populated country. That is also our strength and source of economic power. Yeah, and you know that the Bangladesh economy, in our economy, that is stands on three pillars. Yeah, first is migrants remittances, garment sectors, and agriculture. But I will focus on migrants issues because non-violent issues in Bangladesh, actually most of the like 80 to 90% movement is non-violent now. Yeah. So last 2018-19, there was huge movement on garments sector for their wage increase or like this, and they are success to increase their wages, but that not much, still that much standard, but still a trade union and other organizations are working non-violent movement for ensuring their rights. But today I will focus on the migrant workers issues. If I will very briefly focus the migration context in Bangladesh, there are two factors always, push factor and pull factor. Because Bangladesh, I first say that it's overpopulated, unemployment, insufficient income, and poverty, our major problem. There is lots of unscrupulous middlemen or recruiting agencies or like this. For that, some push factor. There are some negative picture. We are saying that trafficking, smuggling, forced labor, or discrimination, irregular status, and lots of rights violation issues. But there are some pull factor as well, because people want to better life, myth of successful migration. I know that the similar like India, Nepal as well, there is demand for cheaper labor in the host countries and shortage of some specific kinds of workers. So, but there are some positive also impacts because they are gaining skill, empowerment, and our macro level development, poverty reduction, remittance is big. actually support for the national reserve. So that is very important. If we will just overview the migration scenario.
Jasia ma'am, let me interrupt you for a second. Your screen is not visible for the viewers.
It's not,
So,
oh, sorry.
yeah,
It's not visible?
Yeah, it's not, we can't see it. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's fine. I stop share and then again sharing.
Yeah, can you try that again?
Yeah,
Works.
of course. Yeah, I'm sharing. Is it visible now?
Yes.
We can see it now.
Thank you. Thank you. So that is the two contrast I have actually shared. And if you will see overall overview of current migration situation, that Bangladesh since 1976, though 1971, Bangladesh victory, you know that the fighting against the Pakistan and like that. But our data reserve start from 1976 migrant workers. So till now, more than 10 million Bangladeshi have migrated internationally, different countries. Among them, total 9,53,239 is women migrant workers. But last year, due to COVID, the situation was not that much favor with us. So migration actually rate was not that much high. And we most of our migrant workers are going in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Malaysia, Qatar, Singapore, and other countries. And the migrant workers sending remittance, that is the 2020, it was $22 billion. And most of the migrant workers are less skilled, semi-skilled, skilled, and very few are professionals and other categories. So most of the migrant workers are less skilled nature. So the challenge we are facing in our migration sector, that is the lack of safe migration information. There are lots of unscrupulous middlemen. We call them the dream seller, traffickers, smugglers, and less skilled migration. There are some kafala system, or sponsoring system in the Gulf countries. That is the challenge of our migrant workers. There is visa trading in our country, as well at the receiving end. There is also visa trading, high cost of migration. There is no protection of migrants' rights in MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, or bilateral agreement. There is lack of reintegration program, and the absence of social protection or benefit at home or abroad, and lack of access to justice. That is the weakness of implementing laws and policies, and overall monitoring and complaint mechanism. There is lots of gap or problems. So that is the challenges our migrant workers are facing, and we are facing to ensure the safe migration. So what is our movement or non-violent movement to ensure or to overcome these challenges? As a organization, Warby Development Foundation, actually Warby itself a case study, because Warby actually the returning migrants organization, and we are the pioneer organization in Bangladesh who are working start from 1997, and all our founder members are the returning migrants. So when they actually work in the Saudi Arabia in 1986, on that time, they are facing different problems, and they saw different problems facing our migrant workers. That from that time, they're thinking they will do something when they will back country, because that time there are no any organization who are working for migrant workers issues. So they working start from Saudi Arabia. When they back in 1996, a group of young people, they started to work the migrant workers issues. So our organization itself a case studies because they are working as a non-violent movement. They started and they try to focus the issues to the policymakers and government level, and started in the grassroots level, because the grassroots level issues they bring into national level. At grassroots level, there are lots of activities, services, works, and that issues they bring into the national level, regional level, now international level. They also bring that issue. So that is the important actually work is here. So first initiative, non-violent initiative, work started 1997 when the organization started. You know that the 18th December is International Migrants Day, but 1998, that time, this day was not declared as International Migrants Day, but this day, 18 December was the UN Convention 1990 Adaptation Day. So World first started that day, International Solidarity Day, as a Solidarity Day. You can see the picture, first picture. So that time started as a Solidarity Day, and every year, 1998 to till 2008, Warby and other organization, other partners, they observed this day as the International Migrants Day. And one major advocacy lobby was that government will observe this day nationally. So finally, 2009, government started this day nationally as the International Migrants Day. Now, government every year organize this day very colorfully with partner organization, government, trade union, all we are observed this day. So this is one our movement which we successfully achieved, but it takes long time. And also some non-violent movements achievement we have, like 1990 UN Convention ratification. Bangladesh government ratified this one is 2011, but this movement started from 1998. There is huge campaign, consultation, then rally. We translated the 1990 UN Convention in Bangla and circulated or distributed the policymakers, government officials. We collected signatures full 64 districts of Bangladesh and submitted with memorandum our Prime Minister. This type of non-violent movements we organize, and finally government ratified this UN Convention 1919. And after that, government enacted a law, that is Overseas Employment and Migration Act 2013. That was on light of the UN Convention 1999. At the same time, Bangladesh government established Migrants Welfare Bank. That is also our another advocacy and movement, non-violent movement. And 1 month compulsory government training for migrant domestic workers, because before government sending domestic workers without any training. So, but still we are advocating for 3 months training, but now it's 1 month training, and the 3 days compulsory government pre-departure training. Before the government pre-departure training, Warby first started the pre-departure training at the grassroots level, and providing them pre-departure training. We have had our module and others, and we give them certificated or like that. And then our advocacy was that this is the government should initiate this pre-departure training. Now government is providing this training, so we are not doing that pre-departure training. We are doing the pre-decision stage, pre-decision training. And another our movement was that the remittance transfer incentive. So our that is another our movement, and we are successfully achieved. Now our migrant workers are getting 2% incentive for sending remittances. Now our irregular wage remittance transfer is reduced, and our migrant workers are sending legal way remittances more than the irregular ways. So that is another area. And this non-violent struggle, it is not possible alone with war beyond like this. So we should need some collaboration, some social structure, and some actually partnerships, and then we actually achieve this type of non-violent movement or achievement. Like we formed the trade union and CSO common platform on migration and development. Main focus is that trade union should actually work for the migrant workers in the country of origin and destination. And for that reason, we are providing them different capacity related training on migration related issues or like this, because we would like to collectively move towards effective implementation of the migration related different convention. And you know that recently there is adopted Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, Regular Migration, we call GCM, and SDG related targets. So that platform is help us to work collectively. And also another platform that calls Bangladesh Obhibashi Odhikar Forum, that is Bangla term, its English term is Bangladesh Migrants Rights Forum. So this forum is also a strong platform because it started from 2014. Now in Bangladesh, 64 districts, it has more than 100 grassroots level organizations who are the member of this forum. And this forum is working grassroots level to national level, and they are raising the issues, and providing their different evidence to our government policymakers. So that platform is also very important for us. And as there is some pictures of their movements, how they are moving and collecting their evidence. And also we have another platform that is Bangladesh Civil Society for Migrants. It's national platform. All our national migrants' rights organization, more than 27 organizations, we are the member of that civil society, by Civil Society for Migrants, this platform, and Warbi is the co-chair of that platform. And this platform is actually doing very strong movement, because in every burning issues we are raise our voice. We submitted press release and conference, and so there is evidence-based study, published evidence-based report, and also submitting MOU, rally, human chain, and everything. So this platform is also very strong platform for nonviolent movement. And final one is that is Warbi's one achievement. We think that we should involve policymakers for this non-violent movement, because political willingness is very important. So we formed a Bangladesh Parliamentarian Caucus on Migration and Development. This informal group, they are now working very actively. This actually caucus formed 31st March 2017. It's all party United Parliamentarian Caucus, and they are now involving grassroots level, national and international level. They're raising the issues in the parliament sessions. Now in the COVID situation, they are playing very important role in the budget session, and in the divisional level they are going and they are organizing. National level, they are organizing different programs, and internationally they have very strong their engagement in the parliamentarian caucus, and Warbi is supporting this caucus as a secretarial support. And recently they are we are actually now also focusing more recent non-violent movements through this social structure or these partners or this platform. We are now focusing on the waste theft issues on migrant workers. You know that the waste theft issues is globally now a campaign of global campaign for migrant workers who are actually not getting their wages due to COVID-19 situation. They back their country, but not getting their wages. So that issues or that campaign we are involving. And also safe return, reintegration, social protection or benefit at home, abroad, access to justice, zero migration cost. Zero migration cost will actually mean that the employers pay model. Employers will pay, but the migration cost will be zero for migrant workers. And middleman regulation, budgetary allocation for migrant workers, our women workers' rights at country of origin and destination. So now we are our movement is nonviolent movement is on these issues, and we also thinking that the the nonviolence, which actually most important and what is effective. Most effective is that collective action, collaboration, partnership, which so nonviolent movements will be strong, because public-private partnership is very important for nonviolent movements. So thank you so much from my side. And if you have any question, please, I will answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessiaji. That was really insightful. The issues of migrant workers are very much important and existing here in Nepal as well. And the things that you said, actually, it's all these points apply to us too. And thank you so much for sharing that. So our panel speakers have finished their presentations. So I would like to request our viewers or participants, if you have any questions for our speakers today on this topic, then please send it here in the chat box. Yeah, if you can send it there, then I think we can see it. So moving forward, I know all our speakers had limited time to speak on this topic, but a few points, some more points I would like to know about is how to, especially now that COVID situation has highlighted their plights. Now with COVID, countries and the governance system are forced to look into how they do things. So has this made any difference, or are there positive reforms coming in your country's context for the welfare of farmers and workers? I would like to start with Mr. Sharma again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, coming to your question, it's a very important question, and it's I think it's equally important for Nepal, Bangladesh, India, or any other country. Let me honestly answer that if you look the last 1.5 years in Indian context, that most of the moves, the political moves in terms of policy, in terms of new legislation, in terms of new schemes or new plans, a new budgetary allocation, which was made for the people, which actually makes me a little worried. And personally, I'm not very happy with because of one very, very important reason. In my presentation, you remember I said that for us, as a nonviolent movement, for us, the democracy is one of the very, very important thing. And most of these movements are actually around the democracy. It's largely for establishing the democracy, the people's democracy. If you look the current model of the responses, the current political project of the responses, especially during the COVID time, you may, you may shocked that on the one side, that a state is completely failure to respond to the poorest of the poor people on the ground. There was in the initial phase, remember the last year in the month of April, May, and June, the government seen like a helpless, like in a helpless situation. And most of the civil society organization, they were the one who took the front line, and they started to help the poor people or the migrant workers on the ground. So I would say in my opinion, or in our opinion, the state has proven as one of the weak entity, irresponsive, insensitive to some extent. Some policies which actually announced by the state was actually regressive, not the progressive in that way. Like the whole mining sector was open in India, like the whole land market was open for the international buyers. It's all pushing towards the negative direction. So I would say, on the one hand, state shows and state seen as a one weak entity, but at the same time, state making a lot of people dependent on them through this smaller schemes or policy or the smaller approach, like cash transfer kind of a thing. Like there are many other schemes which was actually declared in the recent past in Indian context. So for me, this is a danger trend. We are moving towards a big danger that the ordinary people are too much dependent on the corrupt state, or the state which is fragile, which is weak, which is irresponsive. So let me stop here, but if anybody is more interested, I'll answer again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Fabian had some time ago asked us a permission to ask question. So here is what he's asking. All around the world, land and workers' movements face the repression of states and elites who have interest in keeping the status quo. If a group makes a peaceful complaint to a peaceful elite state, the result can be more or less straightforward and peaceful. But have Indian and Bangladeshi state or elites always responded peacefully to land and workers' claims? In the cases presented, there was no elite state violence from the non-violent movements formed, consolidated, and achieved partial results. So what important differences between the violent and non-violent demand processes can be highlighted in the mentioned cases? That's what he asks. So Ms. Khatun, would you like to take that question?
Yes, thank you. Actually, recent situation is little bit different. Like migrant workers issues, we are working. So the previous situation was not that. Yeah, when we started to work for migrant workers' rights and their different issues, that time government was not that much cooperative. Yeah. So that time it was very actually not that much easy for us. So that time we always actually government think us as an anti organization or like this. Yeah. And still I think and I remember that when we talked about against government one issues, they taken actually some steps for migrant workers. So that was not migrants friendly initiative. So we talked against that. Yeah, that time that issues one national our print media they published, and when government saw that news, they actually call our management, our chairman and secretary general or like this. They went and they tried that why you raise these issues, yeah, or like this. So that time actually like it 1998, 1999 or 2000 that time. So that time that it was not that much easy. But now one type of not trust building, I will say, but now government is also thinking, and they are actually saw that the CSO is very important. They have important role. So now they are thinking as a actually partner, and they are in the government's different committee. They also included now the CSOs, because we are practically working in the grassroots level. And we have our different type of forum and migrant workers. We have also our platform of migrant workers platform, returning migrants and EA. So they directly in different programs, they raise their issues directly in government. Sometimes government not take it easily, but now they are actually more, I think, not that much previous. Now they are working with civil society on like this. So I think that if this situation, because if implement the SDGs, there is partnership is very important. So so I think that if this way we will work, so non-violent movement will be successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next question, I think we have time to take one more question. This is from Mr. Rizal. I think Ms. Karki can take this question. So these non-violent movements in Nepal that we've talked about so much, are these too specific to a local context? He asks, do they have the potential to garner a more bigger scope or bigger attention in South Asian context rather than just local movements? Can you give us some insights in that, Ms. Karki?
Thank you. Can you repeat the questions once again?
Sure. So these non-violent movements that we're talking about in Nepal, these are right now more local movements, like they have more local attention, local support, but do they have the potential to go to a South Asian level, let's say, a larger context?
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Yeah, these are not only the local achievement of the movement on land rights in Nepal. It is big achievements even in South Asia. When we share in a South Asian forum, the land rights movement achievements of Nepal, it is a very big achievement from the Nepal, because we have a very small country, and we can influence the political leaders and government, even the other human rights commission and other kinds of commission in Nepal very successfully. So we many times we presented our achievements in the globally as in the South Asian Forum. And also, as Ramesh Bhai shared, that India has a very big and massive movement by Ekta Parishad, as well as other civil society organization. But during this period, if we compare to the India and Nepal, we have a very big success in a very few period in Nepal, because now the land commission is contracting to the local government within a 752 local governments. Then they are developing very good database to provide the land in community level who have no land. So we can organize. Also, other achievement that I shortly mentioned earlier, there was a big movement from the 50 districts women farmers in the Kathmandu. When the constitution was making at that time, 1,000 women stayed 10 days in Kathmandu in the Turi Khel without any, only just in within a tent. Then they visited all the political leaders and constitution making parliamentarians and other stakeholders. Then the state announced the joint land ownership policies. That is the big change for the woman access and woman rights to land. And then I already shared that we are success to build 12,000, more than 12,000 couples have a joint entitlement, so that we can proudly share. We can proudly share the two big social movement, non-violent social movement in land rights movement, and we already share the different forum as well as.
In the context of Nepal. Thank you so much, Ms. Karki. So I think one final question we'll take, and then we'll be able to wrap this program up as well. This was a question asked earlier by Mr. Ramesh Singh. Most of the things that we've talked about already, but how do these movements, your movement, get response from administration or other oppositions in the society or the community? I think Mr. Sharma can take this question. And
yeah, thank you. So in the non-violent movement, we always keep saying that it's a political protest. Of course, it's a political protest, it's a political resistance, but it's also has a very strong transformative power for the social education. Imagine if 25,000 people are walking in the streets of Delhi, or 10,000 people are staying in the streets of Kathmandu, and if it's not changed the mind and heart of the people who are not the part of campaign, this protest is just another game. So we need to understand and recognize and establish and enlarge the scope of the social transformation, the social education in the nonviolent movement. Coming back specifically to the question that how much it's successful to influence the local administration or the state administration or the national administration, yes, it's influential because of 3-4 specific reasons. The one is that the persistency of the campaign, the larger sustainability of the campaign. Ekta Parishad is demanding for land since last 4 decades. 4 decades, it's not a small period, and it's right from the village level up to the national level. So the persistency is the one thing which can change the mind and heart of the other side. Whether the other side is very aggressive or progressive, you can make a lot of shift in the mindset. The second very important aspect is the strong discipline, the discipline of the campaign. And especially if you are a non-violent campaign, everybody wants to see the discipline. If you are a violent campaign, forget about anything. You can do anything. You can burn the bus, you can destroy the street, you can destroy the shops, you can do anything, whatever you want. But in a non-violent campaign, everyone, it looks towards you for a basic discipline. Okay, so we have to be very careful about the entire thing, and in that way you can change the mindset. I can give the example of my own organization. We were once upon a time we were seen as a left movement, a little left movement. And in India, if you say the left movement, that means you have a very different sorts of a impression. But we are a Gandhian organization, so we wrote a letter, open letter to the Chief Minister and Prime Minister. If you are asking a Gandhian organization as a Maoist organization, that means it's an insult of both Maoist as well as the Gandhian, right? Imagine one letter completely change the mindset of the other side. So be innovative. The third thing, which is very, very important, if you really want to change the mindset of the other side, be innovative. If you start with some sort of innovation, you can always make surprises in your campaign, right? No one have actually any imagination that 25,000 people are really ready to walk for a 1 month, sleeping in the national highway, eating, dancing, everything, whatever they are doing, it is in a national highway. But the world was shocked after seeing one real 25,000 people are walking for a month. So doing something which is a more innovative, which is more surprising, can change the mindset of the other side also. And the last thing for me, as I said in my presentation, the deeper understanding the deeper discipline of the democracy, it's very, very important. Last thing I would like to say, if you ask me that who are the best friend of the social movements, especially I'm talking about my own organization, I would say when 35,000 people walk all the way from Gwalior to Delhi, when we reach Delhi, I find that the people from intelligence, the police intelligence, they were the best friend of the movement. Probably you may laugh that how the intelligence people become a good friend of the movement. But yes, believe me, they are also from the middle class society. They are also from the people like us. The only one thing which is a difference that they are working with the government. So we started to inform those people whatever we want to do. Hmm? So being a non-violent movement, we have to be very transparent. We have to be very open. We have to be very truthful. If we are, then probably the other side will also respect you. I'm talking about the administration. And these are the cumulative factors. These are the different factors which actually gauge your success or failure on the ground. So, I mean, perhaps if you know, you can go to the website, you can find the history that how we get success to change the legislation or to bring new legislation or to bring new policies for the land distribution in Indian context. So there are different layers of educational thing which is there in the non-violence. We need to be very innovative. We need to be very, very open to understand and to explore the possibilities. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. When the core value, when the core goal is appreciated by everybody, I guess it's easier to get everyone on the same side. Thank you so much for your answer. Okay, we have questions coming in from our viewers. So if, and this is specifically for Ms. Khatun, if you can very shortly give us an answer for this question. I'm not going to read out everything, but how do migrant workers mobilize on the street? Do they plan for any sustainable movement in advance, or are these movements just sporadic? This question is specifically asked for you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Shraddha. Yeah, very nice question. I also seen in the chat box, there are some more questions as well. So that is interesting. That is interesting for migrant workers, because we always actually discuss among us that if in Bangladesh any rickshaw puller, you will beat her or say any bad comment or like this, other rickshaw puller will come and they will organize. Yeah, but in the migration workers sector, that is different. They are not collective. Yeah, so the organizations who we are working like Warbi and other organizations, we are working for themselves. Yeah, we are motivating them, we are organizing them. Like in the grassroots level, we have some CBO, we call community-based organization, which is returning migrants and their family members. That CBO, they are actually raising their issues, yeah, in the different government forum, different seminar or like this. But migrant workers rarely they mobilize in the street. In different cases they mobilize, like now you know that the vaccination issues, they are not getting the vaccine on time, so they are actually raise their voices, or in this they are on the street or like this, or some situation like the crisis of air ticket or flight missing. In the COVID situation, you know that some situation they actually on the street, but most of the time the migrant workers are not going on the street, but their issues we bring actually into the policy makers and government levels with case studies. And even migrant workers himself or herself, they also said or raise their issues to the policy makers through ourselves or like this. So that is the difference from other movement or like this. They are not that much movement in the street or like this. So that is the non-violent in the sense of that. I think, in a short. Yeah, thank you.
In very short. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Khatun. Okay, very last question for Ms. Karki, and then we should be able to wrap up. Ms. Karki, Mr. Shrestha asks, could you speak about the success of land reform program in Nepal? Very shortly.
Yeah, thank you again. In a very short, as I mentioned earlier, that after the 20 years, we got the local government. Then the federal government has formed the Land Reform Commission. Then now it is going on in a process through the Land Reform Commission. The local government is very powerful to provide the land and the land certificate to the land tillers, landless, and the very priority for the Dalit landless. So it's not a complete successful, but we hope for good, and we are together to success the land reform with Land Reform Commission, also with local level government. So some issues are already addressed, but most of the issues is in process. So we have to support, we have to engage, and we have to very close and critical engagement with local government for the successful land reform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karki. And thank you all our panelists today for your time, for your energy, for your answers. Thank you so much. If Pawan sir would like to say something before we end the program. If not, I would like to move towards the closing ceremony.
I think it's already too late. So maybe Shraddha, you can wrap up the program. Yeah.
Thank you so much. As I said in the beginning, today's webinar is the second of our webinar series called Nonviolent Civil Resistance. In the last webinar, we had talked about women's rights movement in the South Asian context. We had brilliant speakers from Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. And today's discussion was just as interactive and productive, if not more. Thanks to our marvelous panel speakers. For our participants who are interested to know more or engage in similar areas of nonviolent resistance in South Asia, Center for Social Change is currently offering excellent opportunities that you should not miss out on. We're offering a 4-week online course that offers an opportunity to know more on nonviolent campaigns. It will help you build, it will help you contribute and get connected to South Asian network of civil resistance movements. Also, Center for Social Change is accepting write-ups for People's Power blog series from researchers, students, activists, educators who are involved, or even if you're interested in practice of nonviolence actions to conflict transformation. A bunch of themes are listed that you can choose from. For example, you can talk about historic or current right-based movement of maybe students or marginalized groups, or about anti-corruption, you name it. I urge you to make the most of these opportunities. We will share the links in the chat box for these calls, and you can find out more. Also, please don't forget to fill in the feedback form that was provided in the chat box previously. We can also email you that. It will really help us to better our future programs. Thank you again, our panel speakers, organizer, and everyone who has taken out their time to join us and bring forward this very important ongoing issue. Today's discussion will be available in CSC's website, Facebook, and YouTube channel as well. Thank you again, and we will see you in our next webinar.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Center for Social Change, Shraddha and Paul.
Thank you. If time wasn't a limit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.